So how do you actually become a Pilates teacher? So first of all, the process that you will have to go through to decide whether this is the career choice for you, but also which training program would suit you best. Although we all teach Pilates, every training provider will be teaching the process of becoming a Pilates teacher slightly differently. So you have to make sure that it fits in with you and the way that you learn and the vision that you have of what you want to do once you are a Pilates teacher. So I would encourage you to first of all think about the big picture. What do you want to do as a Pilates teacher? Do you want to work as a contractor? Do you want to be employed? Or do you want to run your own studio? Do you want to combine Pilates with an existing career? Do you want to do it part-time or do you want to do it full-time? So there are many ways that Pilates can work for you. It is a very, very flexible career. But you also need to be able to make a living out of it. So you need to be very clear on what your end outcome is. So I would, before you even start researching anything about becoming a Pilates teacher, think about what is it that you want this career as a Pilates teacher to do for you? What is it going to give you? Do you want flexibility? You will be able to make a living as a Pilates teacher, but you will never be rich. You'll never be super stinking rich. So think about that. What is it that you need to be able to achieve with your career? From a personal fulfillment perspective, but also very practically from a financial perspective. Because becoming a Pilates teacher is not cheap. The training courses are done by private training providers, and it is generally not government funded. So you are paying a premium for your training. And since Pilates is not cheap, you really need to do your research. So you need to establish roughly what training providers are available to you in your area. Then go and do some classes. If you come to a studio where you've got teachers that you really admire and you like the way they teach, ask them who they trained with. And then go and research that training provider. When you get hold of that training provider, have a conversation with them. You need to ask them questions. You need to ask them questions about the process of becoming a teacher trainer with them. So what does that mean? What do you have to do before you attend? What is required of you during your training? What does your exam entail? And what do you leave the training program with? So remember, your training program, it cannot teach you everything. I think a lot of people think they need to come out of their training and that they will be able to deal with any client that walks through the door. That is very unrealistic. Your training program would have to take years then. You can't do that simply in a few weeks. So there is going to be a requirement for ongoing training. And this could be a minefield. That's a whole other video. But right now, deciding to become a Pilates teacher means you need to do your research. You need to ask for the cost of the course and what it involves. A lot of courses have got hidden costs. You need to make sure that you understand what those costs are, because your training program might require you to pay extra for class attendance or to do observation or to rent the studio so you can do your teaching hours. You need to consider where it is in the country. You might have to travel and pay for accommodation. So all of those things need to go into your budget. The next thing you need to do is familiarize yourself with the names of the exercises. This will make your training so much easier. Now, people do call some of the same exercises by different names, but that's okay. It just adds into what you know. For example, on the Wonder Chair, there's an exercise called Washerwoman, but it's also known as Hamstring 1. And it might be known by some other names as well. But that all just contributes to you having a rich understanding of the Pilates repertoire if we know the names and what the exercises and the movements associated with those names are. And the reason I say this is because when I first started doing my training, it was during the time of the Pilates lawsuit, and we were not allowed to use the names of the exercises because we weren't, or I wasn't being taught the actual original work at the time. So I didn't know any of the names of the exercises. That only came later when I did my training in the States. That's where I really learned the name of the exercises. And so I had made up my own names in my head. So it took a while for me to become familiar with that, and it did lead to some confusion. So wherever possible, please try and remember the names of the exercises as you're busy doing classes with people. I also strongly encourage you to do anatomy. Not all of your Pilates training courses will require you to have an anatomy qualification, but if you don't understand how the body is made up, if you don't have some basic anatomy knowledge, it's going to be quite hard for you, and particularly how each area of the body moves, so that you can put it into the context of the movement patterns that you're going to be seeing in Pilates. And that is a basic language. It's like trying to learn a language without understanding the alphabet. You don't have to be an anatomist. You don't have to know absolutely everything, but knowing that your quad sits on the front of your thigh and that it isn't in your shoulder is going to be really useful for you. So do try and learn some basic anatomy, even if your course does not require you to have anatomy as a starting point. And then the last thing when you're in your class, I know it's so tempting just to drift off, but listen to the cues that your teachers are using. Try and think about, well, how could they say that differently? Did I really understand that? And start going through that process, because you're going to be at the other end having to find the right words to help people to move. So the sooner that you can start familiarizing yourself with that process, the better. You will be really well set up then to attend your training courses. Once you have all the information and you've spent some time learning the names of the exercises, you don't have to know them all, but at least know some of the key exercises names, and you have some basic anatomy knowledge underneath your belt, and you've started thinking about, well, what is it like to be in the driver's seat? What is it like being the teacher running this class rather than just being the person receiving the cues? You can attend your course. And I strongly encourage you to dedicate time every single day to doing something towards your training. There's a lot of work that you have to do once you've finished each training block. You have to familiarize yourself and repeat the things that you've come across in that training course. So it is a lot of what we do is rote learning initially, and then we start problem solving from there. Because it's only the rote learning that's going to help you to get that exercise into your own body. If you struggle to do the exercise, it's going to be hard for you to verbalize it. But that very struggle to do the exercise is also going to be your best teacher, because you're going to have to problem solve around that and see, what is it that I need to do? What is it that I need to work on to be better at this exercise? And that's exactly the process you're going to go through with your clients. What is it that this client needs so that they can actually be successful at doing this exercise, because it's going to be important for them to master this. So if you want to know more about teacher training programs with Hearts and Bones and with me, please contact me, and I'd be more than happy to set up some time to have a chat with you about what it is that I do and how I do it.